Hello, good evening, everybody. And it's been a wonderful 2 days of deliberations. And I welcome you all. And it is my special privilege to invite all the participants of the panel discussion today, Mr. Tapesh, Mr. Nishant, as well as Dr. Vikas, who's yet to join. But before that, we have a very important event that we need to unfold or roll out the telemedicine registry, which we have made from DH India. So just to give you a background, and for performing this inauguration, I have with me our guest, Mr. Manish Kishore and Dr. Colonel Goel. So just to give a brief on how the registry has come about, is that, today everybody knows the word telemedicine. Thanks be to the pandemic, people know more about telemedicine than anything else. And in the initial rush of utilizing this telemedicine, the users faced a challenge of what to choose from. And one of the significant user groups in our country, which is CAHO, the Consortium for Accredited Hospitals Organization, expressed a desire to have a system whereby the users, the hospitals and the doctors can choose the right telemedicine solution. And then we partnered with some of our alliance members, which is HIMSS India. CAHO was already there. We had CHIME, which is the group of all the CIOs in the country. And we were supported by NRCES and the National Resource for the standards for electronic medical record. And with this, we came up with the evaluation framework so that we could assess the maturity of the telemedicine solution. And that from the 155 participants, today in the phase 1, we are going to roll out the pure telemedicine solution providers, which are 68 of them. And the balance, which is the tele-ICU providers and special telemedicine solution providers, we'll do in phase 2 and 3. So it is my privilege today to invite Mr. Manish Kishore, who's a veteran in the IT space of over 25 years of experience, and is today the head of IT and training in Andhra Pradesh MedTech Zone, a space which is the space of the future. I mean, AMTZ is I think, a prize dream product of our country and the only dedicated MedTech space in our country. And to be heading IT systems over there, the entire IT space and training, Mr. Manish, it's a phenomenal job that you're doing. And you have, I'm sure you realize that the burden that you have on your shoulders, and I'm sure that's a very good, it's a position to be in. So we are very, very proud and we are very honored to have you here. Along with him, we have Colonel Dr. Ashwini Goel, who, of course, is known to me for nearly 40 years, Ashwini. We shouldn't declare our age. Ashwini and I go back. We are from the same college and from the same batch. So we are from AFMC. And all through this, we have interacted many times in our professional and personal capacity. Dr. Ashwini Goel, besides wearing many hats, I mean, he's been one of the pioneers of telemedicine in the army, right from the time the telemedicine started in the country. He's a founder of the telemedicine, one of the founder members of the Telemedicine Society of India. And today he heads as a president of the same society that he founded nearly 20 years ago. And what better space to be in than to see your child grow over 20 years. So Ashwini is really, in the last 2 years, played a stellar role in doing many activities in the field of telemedicine when the country was grappling with, lack of knowledge, lack of training, and did not understand what is to be done. They created wonderful training platforms, training systems, and he has been involved in many healthcare organizations in the country and with the government in various advisory forums to advise regarding telemedicine. So Ashwini, I proudly welcome you, and on behalf of DH India, I really thank both of you to be here. And we will now, I need to invite you to Now we will, I invite Mr. Manish to inaugurate this session of rolling out of the telemedicine registry.
Thank you so much, Dr. Uma. And
thank you to our alliance partners. So thank you, Mr. Manish and Colonel Goel. Mr. Manish, I invite you to say a few words on this occasion.
Thank you, Dr. Uma. It is a privilege to be here on stage with you and Colonel Ashwini Goel. And you have been pioneers in the telemedicine industry, and along with other co-panelists in this. I think telemedicine has grown immensely in the COVID pandemic, and everybody has started adopting telemedicine as one of the practices. And along with regulatory and all the maturity model, I think that would bring maturity to the telemedicine along with regulatory. Although the regulatory come at 2020, there was some rollout of papers on that. I think it has to be matured enough, and a lot of reports on McKinsey and other have also given a lot of inputs to it. But I congratulate DH India for coming up with this alliance and maturity model to bring in forward the people who can be benched upon, among others. I congratulate all of you for this.
Thank you so much, Mr. Manish, for your kind words. Dr. Goel, can I request you to share your views on this?
Yeah, at the outset, thank you, Dr. Ambyar. I bring you greetings from the Telemedicine Society of India. At the outset, I wish to applaud the team of DH India and its associated partners like CareHope and the others for developing the registry of telemedicine services and the solution providers. I wish to thank the organizers for inviting me to share my thoughts on this pertinent issue. So I'll take a few minutes. I'm greatly honored to be able to interact with this enlightened audience. Many of us have been working towards the development and progress of telehealth in India for a very long time. I personally have been in this arena for almost 35 years now. Ever since I was a young medical officer hopping around from peak to peak in the Siachen Glacier at the early days of my career in the Armed Forces Medical Services. But it has taken a pandemic for this wonderful technology and its utility in the delivery of quality healthcare to the masses in the underserved areas of the country to be recognized for its capabilities. Telehealth as a technology-based solution has now been recognized the world over as a solution for bridging the healthcare divide that exists in most of the countries the world over. As this wonderful technology-based solution becomes more and more popular, many service and solution providers are jumping onto the bandwagon. The sudden rapid proliferation of telemedicine companies and their array of products and services, this necessitates a national standardized means of assuring quality, patient safety, and competent care. Until now, the telemedicine industry has not had an easy to identify confirmation or seal of approval of quality from an independent third-party organization. So in this instant case, which DH India is the torchbearer, registration and accreditation will also help to fulfill the quality requirements and fill the regulatory gap that occurs when the pace of innovation may move faster than regulations can keep up. As with telemedicine and its associated services, devices, and protocols. The issuance of the telemedicine practice guidelines, it has been a great boon for the entire telehealth industry. We are also working on drafting the telemedicine standards for the national standards for telehealth in India, the BIS, in which effort I'm chairing a subcommittee for the same, which will go a long way hand in hand in streamlining the progress of telehealth in the country. As I've come to know that the registration, it has almost 155 entities have registered for this registration process, which is very heartening indeed. After the validation as a part of the entire registration process, the accredited entities will be able to demonstrate to their various stakeholders that the processes and procedures promote better clinical and financial outcomes, including patient safety. So in addition, having the right seal of approval, which is a differentiator in a crowded field, and accredited organizations should be able to capture increased market share. I wish DH India and the associated partners all success in this onerous but all important venture towards ensuring delivery of quality healthcare to all consumers of telehealth services in the country. Jai Hind.
Thank you so much, Colonel Goyal. Thank you for telling us about the requirement and the urgent need for a seal of approval of the telemedicine solutions. And I'm sure together with TSI, I'm really looking forward to making sure that with TSI, AMTZ, and other like-minded organizations, we can increase our alliance size and therefore the inputs that we get from all our knowledge partners. And I,
Certainly.
of course, want to place on record the hard work that the team members, which are from various alliance partners and led by Dr. Ayushi, who is an assistant professor at the management school in Mahindra University, having done pro bono work continuously through the challenges of COVID over the last 1 year, and a lot of interns, Dr. Avinash, who's a medical student, they put in a lot of effort, all volunteers, and I want to place on record their hard work and, having made sure that this registry can see the light of the day. And I hope that all the applicants and the solution providers can also use this as a roadmap to develop their solution in future, and we can all work together to, really develop this ecosystem in this country. So thank you very much for, rolling it out. And I look forward to the feedback from both of you and your support for this initiative of the organization. Thank you very much.
Dr. Umar, before I leave,
Yes.
I would like to inform this August Assembly. Firstly, the almost 1 year old association between DH India and TSI, and I wish that you and I can take it further.
Yes.
It will be a great effort. Also, we have curated a training program in various specialities. Firstly, of course, it is the basic program that is going on for training of registered medical practitioners in the usage of telehealth technology in India, in conformity with the telemedicine practice guidelines, which were brought forth, issued on the 25th of March last year. We've also curated programs in diabetes. We are curating a program in pediatrics, and we are also venturing into the Ayush arena also. And the module for Ayush is practically ready, and we will be approaching the Ayush Ministry for their concurrence in rolling out this training program. Cardiology is in the offing, and so I would request all of you to take cognizance of this development, because there have been a lot of legal hurdles in the practice of telehealth in the past. And I feel that this effort, if we can jointly, DH India and TSI can do this, it will be a great benefit to the entire medical care industry in India, who, and especially the practitioners who profess to utilize telehealth as to be telehealth service providers. So we look forward to that.
Surely. Thank you so much. We are all for it. And, the more people can join hands, the better the initiatives get.
Certainly,
and
definitely.
it's really the need of the hour. Thank you very much for spending time with us and encouraging us in this initiative. Thanks a lot, Mr.
Thank you.
Manish.
I'll take your leave now.
Thank you
Thank you
very
so
much.
much.
Yeah. So having, now rolled out the telemedicine registry, one of the things that, I want people to understand that the tele-services in healthcare is more than just a doctor-patient consultation through a telemedicine platform. And in this panel, where I have three eminent specialists in their respective fields having joined me, we want to bring about the knowledge about the telehealth ecosystem. What all exists beyond telemedicine, just a doctor to patient consultation, and what all can strengthen this consultative process to provide better care for the patient. Because at the end of the day, we are all in this for better patient care. So I'm going to invite first all the three panelists one by one to introduce themselves with their focused role in the telehealth ecosystem. So I will start with Dr. Vikas. Dr. Vikas, over to you. You are on mute. You'll have to unmute.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Thank you for providing this platform for sharing my views. So regarding this tele-consultation, like these telehealth medicine and these things, in future it will be going up rather than going downwards. So definitely in future there will be like every healthcare professional will adopt it as a routine in addition to this consultations. In my opinion, during pandemic, I have experienced a lot, like so many patients, particularly in my field, endocrinology field. So diabetes, all the patients were uncontrolled because every other hospital or anywhere, everyone are concentrating on COVID patients only. But the main thing is whoever got the COVID positive and all those things, they were having a weak immune system due to these comorbidities. No one is addressing these comorbidities, and these patients were lost to follow, especially because of lack of physical transportation or whatever the reasons due to COVID pandemic lockdown and all these things. In that situation, I felt that these teleconsultations should be not only confined to COVID, it should be confined to other chronic conditions and all those things. It will be helping a lot, because especially these patients, especially the diabetic patients or cardiology patients, these patients require a lot, because these are the chronic follow patients who requires only a minimal changes in doses or else refilling of prescriptions and these things. Already the guidelines have released that these things can be done, have a minimal guideline like a first consultation and follow-up consultations, where certain prescription drugs can be prescribed. Previously there were no these drugs were not allowed to prescribe by physician, but recent guidelines during starting of the pandemic, they have approved that certain drugs which can be refilled and all those things can be prescribed. So in this situation, I think it is a in future these things, like in that pandemic situation, there were all the guidelines were there, but physicians could not able to have a teleconsultation because of these platforms. So the user interfaces and all those things were difficult, and for patients also it is new, and technology wise only patients know about WhatsApp, communication through WhatsApp only. But with WhatsApp there are certain legal issues. We can't have any consent or else history, what patient history or any ID. These guidelines have been there with in tele consultation guidelines. They have provided that there is a particular ID should be there, and these criteria are there. But patients know only the how to use WhatsApp. Apart from this, all over India they don't know to use beyond this, the apps or anything, majority of the patients. So in that situation, these new kind of apps and all those things, user friendly ones, these things will help a lot in the future to adopt it as a routine for physicians as well as patients. In that opinion, in my opinion, that will be a better, concentrating on user friendly apps and all those things, so that physicians can adopt, and also these legal issues and all those things, which can be easily like incorporated, like a consent form or else terms and conditions, like those things. User friendly apps will be a better thing, not only WhatsApp and all those things. Those things.
Thank you, Dr. Vikas. I now want to go to Tapesh. Tapesh, how do you introduce your product and tie it up with the telehealth ecosystem? Can you introduce your product to us? You are on mute.
Mute. Okay. Thanks, Dr. Uma, and all the panelists and Dr. Goel. So if I may use the word old, I think I have been into this telehealth kind of a system from 2004 onwards. When we didn't have mobile phone, we didn't have good laptops. We used to set it up cameras and probably used to have some very special ISRO provided bandwidth to do all this telemedicine. So that's where my association goes, and in very into a specific area in the radiology where we enable a lot of doctors to read the radiology, and many of them here to I would say cities. So my current work is more about now building a lot of, I would say, an automation in the overall ecosystem. I think we all agree there is a need of doctors and nurses, but the sheer gap between the I would say demand and supply does exist. So we are trying to bridge that gap using some of the AI techniques. Specifically, what we are doing is to enable the post-discharge care. So the idea is when the patient, so many a times patient move from say tier 2 cities, tier 1, they come and have the procedure done in the hospital. But after that, when they go back, there is a long period of the care and they really do not have access to the doctors and nurses at that time. So what we are trying to bring a piece where they can probably talk to a very smart, I would say, engine who can help them in multiple aspects of recovery. So that's our current focus at Be Engage. And we are specifically finding a lot of use cases to start with in cardiology and oncology. So that's from my side.
Yeah, thank you, Tapesh. And Nishant, would you introduce your product and what role does it play in this telehealth ecosystem?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Uma, for the opportunity. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Nishant Katpal, CEO and co-founder of Hayati Devices. We are into medtech space with a major focus on diabetes and its complication. So if I talk about my background, I did my master's in VLSI and embedded systems. During my master's, I did a course called collaborative engineering course in which doctors and engineers used to collaborate with each other to solve a real life problem. Now, in that course, I met Dr. Rajni, who placed this problem called diabetic foot. We worked on it, developed multiple proof of concepts, prototypes, and I found out that 3 of my family members are also severely affected with this problem, but they didn't even know that. So, and in the literatures, we also studied like 90% of the diabetic patients end up with the foot ulcers, don't have symptoms for foot neuropathy. Now for the audience, just a brief background. Diabetes leads to sensory nerve damage at the extremities, which is known as neuropathy. Because of that, patient feel no pain even if the foot is injured. Those injuries leads to ulcers, gangrene, and eventually amputation, ranging from toe to the entire leg. The good news is 85% of those foot amputations can be saved if foot screening happens at an early stage and accurately. But the fun fact is there are only 25,000 diabetologists for 70 million diabetic patients in India. Now, how to serve this large number? So the only solution is telemedicine. Even before COVID and after COVID, we need to go through telemedicine. So this is the first and the foremost functional requirement that while developing a product, we need to consider that the product should be integrable with the existing telehealth ecosystem. So we have 2 products in our portfolio. One is VibraSense. It is portable, battery-powered, and handheld device to screen diabetic patients for foot neuropathy. It is generally utilized in less resource-constrained areas like PHCs, OPD settings. And the second product is a more of comprehensive, that is NEUMO, which is neuropathic measurement unit. That is of a size of a shoebox that can be placed anywhere. Patient just need to step on that. Everything will be done automatically. There will be a report generated at the end that can be shared on the cloud also. Yeah, of course, the report need to be verified with the clinician. So that's how we integrate our product with the existing telehealth ecosystem to facilitate or to facilitate the patient-doctor engagement.
Thank you so much, Nishant. And this brings me to Dr. Vikas, because it so happens that he's an endocrinologist and he's going to give me his views on how useful do you find a use of a tele device like what Nishant is saying, and there are multiple other such devices which are being developed, and also for a service like, say, this voice-based and chatbot-based, the AI engine that rules this post-discharge care mechanism for a patient who's distant from you. Let's say you had a patient, who was far off. How would you look at it? And for future, do you think that you would benefit because there are some of these applications that make your life easier? Do you think that that is how you would feel it? What's your response to this? You need to unmute.
Definitely, the future is like most of the person will be on tele. That is the future, far future. But in near future, we'll be adopting. While adopting, there will be a pitfalls like physical consultation, like physical science we need to see. Those things are limitations with this teleconsultation. And also symptoms wise, patients will be like unless there is a consultation direct before consultation, we can have a basic symptom like a checking thing, like a list of symptoms the patients can check, and we can filter the patients and we can assign them to a particular doctor, particular specialty, or those things. Those things can be automated, and instead of like patient itself choosing the doctor, we can filter out the patients and directly we can refer to whoever specialty they need and all those things. That is one way. And other way is the like advantage of a physical consultation can also be brought up in the telemedicine through these tele devices, where a physical examination can be like remotely can be done through these devices physically. Wherein OP setting also will be doing the same thing by we examine the sensations of food, for example. Nishant has told like those things, vibration sense and all those things. We can in a remote areas we can keep those things and have a tele consultation with a specialist rather than a local doctors such as diabetologist or else a cardiologist and all those things. So in that setting in the future, like we are starting with a small devices. Like Nishant has told, like diabetic foot and these things. In future will be like an evaluation will be going through a complex devices where we can locate in the remote areas and all. So in future it will be like that. So near future, usually these chronic conditions, common conditions are like diabetes and these cardiac problems, and these things can be done in the such situations. These devices will be helpful. And also as Tapesh told that screening before teleconsultation and assigning the patients symptoms wise, filtering those patients, these things can be done so that adaptation of this telehealth will be much more in the future.
Yeah. So definitely, as you've said, Vikas, that telehealth is here to stay, and teleconsultation is going to become more and more common, and it is required that the physicians start to adopt early. Okay, and yes, the challenges are there, and I think some of the major challenges that which I can count on is, although we have telemedicine practice guidelines, but I think it's a very basic document. It was, I think, in a hurry to really manage the COVID crisis and to make sure that in the situation of lockdowns we still had a legal way of doing a teleconsultation, the telemedicine practice guidelines were put together to actually manage that crisis. But over a period of time, things need to change and the regulatory framework needs to improve. And so I'm going to start with Tapesh. And Tapesh, what do you see in your line of work are the challenges that you think that a regulatory framework is required for you to be able to deliver safe patient care and to ensure that we understand where the liabilities lie and how do you what do you think is the challenge now and what do you want the government to look at?
Let me be very honest, like the moment we use the word say AI, I have seen that there's an immediate reaction from the doctors because they feel that AI is trying to be as smart as them. So many a times when we present this whole concept that what technology is bringing, which anyway patients were not able to avail those facilities and kind of leading to a lot of complications. Technology is at least bringing some I would say a help to the patient or the caregiver and some relief, and at least to avoid a lot of emergency situations. So I would go to the challenges before the regulations. I think of the needs, and the best thing we are finding is that we are trying to do a lot of pilots so that they actually feel technology is there to help them. It's not so they basically see the technology on their side. So that is the first thing. Sometimes we have seen is patients also have their views that there are few patients who really want a touch and feel of the doctors, right? But they are also realizing that it is not possible. I think in metros, at least most of us are getting used to now teleconsultation because travel is a big problem. So there is an acceptance which is growing from the patient side that they are as long as it has been really some part of education has been done from the hospitals, patients are ready to adapt to certain technology. Now coming to the regulatory framework, the challenge we have today is as such that as you rightly said that technology is outpacing the work which is happening on the regulatory side. Innovations are happening every day, and if we come and demonstrate what we are doing, probably it is not that it has been happening from last 10 years, so regulatory framework can be done. So there is a bit of a challenge when it comes to the liability. So what we are trying to ensure that that technology is implemented with the parameter around us. So we are not saying that technology is going haywire. It's like a machine where the boundaries are very well defined. It can do this, it cannot do this. So that way we are trying to bring there is no liability coming from that. Another thing is there is some form of I would say patient consent or education to ensure that patients are well informed that it's a technology, it can fail. If you are at emergency situation and you need ventilator, technology cannot really replace that, that kind of a thing. So, but at the same time, we feel is hospitals needs to weigh this, what technology is bringing to them, what is not, and probably can be the face, or I would say the face of to handling all the liabilities coming from that. The challenge remains, yes, there is as such today no real framework exists. So only thing we have today is going for say FDA or CE certificate. So that's the only comfort we are able to give to the patient and the doctors. So that has been our experience.
Nishant, what is your take on the lack of regulatory frameworks in the country? at the moment?
Yes, so if I talk about medical manufacturing industry, so there are already certain guidelines that are required to follow for manufacturing and commercializing the devices. Like ISO 13485 for organization, if we are developing the products, then EMI, EMC test, and multiple tests, so on. So Tapesh has rightly said the clarity has not come out with the regulatory framework if we talk about telehealth system. So whether we are loving the law or hitting the law, we need to follow that. We cannot avoid that, right? So for us, the major challenge was how should we handle the data, because the devices need to be integrable with the existing telehealth ecosystem. So who will be responsible for storing the data, how the data will be handled, how we need to transfer the data from our device to their ecosystem. So that was the major challenge. And suppose for example, for the consents that we were taking from the patients earlier, that were in printed form, they need to sign and that's it. But now everything is in electronic form. How will we take the consent of the patient, either through OTP or the email or any other means? So there are some guidelines that are set up by HIPAA in US, and similar to that, the government has come out, government of India has come out with DISHA. And but again, it is also sidelined because there is one more act is coming, that is called the General Data Privacy Law. So everything is changing day by day. There are some basic compliances that we have started following now, because it will be difficult to implement them in future. So from our side, the major challenge was the clarity in handling the data, and that's it. So in medical device, what we say, it is a composed of hardware and software. Hardware we cannot change, but since these compliances are coming, we can upgrade the firmware part of the device. So that's how we are handling with our medical devices. But let's see in the future how we need to cope.
Yes. So being, someone who's been in the hospital administration for a long time, I must, confess here that at this moment, the liability issues, most of them, they sit with the hospital. And unfortunately, the hospital or the doctor who's treating the patient does not have an understanding of how much liability there is if there is a breach of data at, let's say, at a small device. And it compromises the entire hospital's reputation and standing and the patient care. So there are a lot of such drawbacks that sit today. Although individually at a device front, there are certain regulations, at the data front, there are certain regulations. But when it comes to patient care, it is a composite of many systems that work together to provide the patient care. So we have Colonel Goel here with us, and Dr. Goel, can I invite you to give a comment on the statutory frameworks, and if they don't catch up with the innovators and the entrepreneurs, how we are going to miss this moment in the movement or the revolution of digital health?
Yeah, thank you, Uma. I've been on the listening watch, though I was involved elsewhere. Yes, so this is a very pertinent question now, because when we went in for the telemedicine practice guideline last year, having been one of the drafters of the guidelines at behest of the Niti Aayog, Dr. B.K. Paul, we worked with him. And somebody very rightly said that, I think you only said that it was brought out in a great hurry because we had the pandemic looming all over us. So initially, actually, the guidelines were brought forth. What the mandate that was given to us was that these would be guidelines merely for something called within, I did not agree with that, but it was teleconsults. Okay. Not, as we all know, whoever has practiced telehealth seriously, a teleconsult is not everything that telemedicine or telehealth stands for. It is a much bigger and a more comprehensive experience altogether, something very much akin to what a doctor and a patient experiences in a brick and mortar practice. It is simply, of course, it's not exactly like that, but then it is very much akin to that. So the telemedicine practice guidelines, which were brought forth on the 25th of March last year, there is much to be desired in that. It was brought out in a hurry, and as somebody just mentioned, that the list of drugs that is mentioned in the TPG is not adequate. Some clinical disciplines, like for example, the mental health. Now, certain drugs that were listed in the TPG were not at all adequate for treatment of patients with mental health problems. NIMHANS as a body took up the case, and they managed to get a few drugs introduced in the list. Then when the pandemic was at its peak, all those regulations, all those restrictions went for a six. Because you see, naturally, the brick and mortar practice wasn't going on at all. It was all online consultations, all teleconsultations, or telehealth was being practiced with much vigor, and anything and everything was being prescribed over the online systems. So as it goes in black and white, there is much to be desired. Yes, we from the TSI, we have comprised a board of people who are engaged in drafting review of the guidelines, and that is what we profess to submit to the government, because a review is very much in the offing. In fact, if you read the guidelines in their entirety, you would notice that it is mentioned in the guidelines that it would be reviewed in the near future.
Yes.
And we really seriously have to think about it, because it is also mentioned, it is mandated that all those who profess to practice telehealth in India would have to be trained and certified in the usage of telehealth technology within 3 years of issuance of the guidelines. So to obviate the possibility of people being prosecuted at a later date after 3 years from the issuance of guidelines, that is 2023, we need to have a serious review and a serious relook at the guidelines to make it more compatible with the existing scenario.
Thank you so much, Dr. Goel. And I think very well said, because you see, those are only a guidelines. That is not a law. That is not an act at the moment, and it needs
no.
So it needs to give. Yeah.
Dr. Uma, I would beg to differ from you.
Yeah.
It is not merely guidelines. If you see, it is an addendum to the MCI Act.
Yeah. So yes, it's an addendum.
So it is a law.
Okay.
It is a law.
I stand corrected. Thank you for that. But in any case, in the face of the situation that, the fact that it is so inadequate to cover the entire ecosystem, I think it really behoves on all of us to really to make sure that all the stakeholders, they can, contribute to whatever are the problems, and to see that we can look at the liability situation and ensure that patient safety is never compromised in what we do. And so we've heard that, yes, the telehealth, the entire system of telehealth, by whatever applications and various devices, is actually the first point of data collection, which in my view is the basic building block for a digital health ecosystem. And in that context, since we are very short of time, I'm also going to ask the panelists to give me your last comments in this context. So Nishant, can I start with you? Nishant, you'll have to unmute and.
Hello.
Yeah.
Dr. Uma, can you please repeat the question? Because of
I said that in the context of the fact that we are the first point data collectors in a telehealth ecosystem. So we really become the building blocks of the digital health ecosystem, the entire telemedicine spectrum. And in that context, what would be your closing comment for the panel today?
Yeah, so if I talk about data, so data is the new oil, because once we have set of data points, we can diagnose the future patients in a better way. So that data needs to be stored, handled in a proper way, in a defined way. And if I talk about like, are there any dip or any increase in demand that is going to happen in the telemedicine future? So I see ourselves as the third or fourth generation of people after independence. The first generation fought for the living, the second generation fought for the basic necessities, and the third and the fourth generation we are living today is for upgrading our lifestyle. And for upgrading our lifestyle, healthcare is a major and important factor in that. And that if we need to upgrade, we need to have defined, if we need to have better results, and that can only happen while after analyzing the proper set of data points. So I think uh, as we are moving forward, we will be having a good amount of data that will be helping us in upgrading that kind of lifestyle that we need.
Thank you, Nishant. I think the third generation laid the foundation of the lifestyle for non-communicable diseases. And the fourth
Yeah.
generation is now trying to find the solutions to reverse or correct the non-communicable diseases.
Yes,
Yeah? So,
totally agree.
Yeah. So, Dr. Vikas, can I have your closing comments in this context? You have to unmute yourself, Vikas.
Definitely the data is required, and that will help a lot. Like previous generation going for a crude kind of a thing. Now, because of all the specialty wise or anything, like we are going into a very fine medicine. And as he told, lifestyle, we are going for a good lifestyle, not like a food. Before it was like life and death or else mortality wise. Now it is beyond like morbidity. We are like morbidity means a healthy lifestyle. Now beyond that, like superior lifestyle. Like we don't have any like minor things also. Patients are asking. Even even they don't have symptoms. Any lab reports are also abnormal. They want like early pickup of, or any early pickup of everything, so that they can prevent. They want like a preventive thing, so that they can more concentrate on living life rather than always going going through these hospitals, or else always having the health conditions or chronic conditions and all those things. In these situations, these data points and everything will help the patients more frequently consult with doctors even before having their diseases, or else in pre points. And in future these things will help, as Tapesh told, that AI thing and all those things. In that situation, these data collection and everything will help in future.
Thank you so much, Vikas. Tapesh, since you are trying to bridge a gap, which has traditionally been a gap, in the post-discharge care, and you see that you've found the niche area that the telemedicine can serve. Again, in the same context, your closing comments.
So I just like to say three things. I think data is very, very important, because whatever intelligence you want to build, if the data is not correct, the intelligence will also be, it's like garbage in, garbage out. So it is very important that we all define the the definitions of data, and this has to go beyond the vitals. Till yet we have been talking about temperature, BPs, SpO2, but things like, as Dr. Vikas says, symptoms. What food he is having? Is he feeling fatigue? So the data definition has to grow beyond just few vitals. It's very, very important to really help the work for the future. So we need to grow the definition of data. Data has to be interoperable. Otherwise, we will just build data and find it is of no use. And data, I think because of there's a lot of sensitivity around it, so it has to be secured properly and backed up properly, which HIPAA in some manner covers these things. So that's my kind of view on the data.
Yeah, thank you so much. Dr. Ashwini, would you like to give a closing comment on this panel?
Yeah, very interesting discussion that has gone on, and I'm very happy to see that the young dynamic leaders of the IT industry are leading the healthcare revolution, also the digital healthcare revolution. So it's very heartening indeed at the outset. Yes, data, as you said, is the new oil, and it's very important for us to plan. You see, knowledge management, data mining, archiving, utilization is very important as far as the perspective and prospective planning for healthcare, healthcare industry is concerned. The healthcare planning in the public sector and private sector both depends on the pertinent and clean data. See, and as Tapesh said, it needs to be interoperable. The systems have to be platform independent, and of course, due concern has to be given for the data privacy and security, for which the Justice B.N. Sri Krishna Commission was instituted. The PDP bill, it is still in the form of a bill. It hasn't yet been placed in front of the Parliament to convert into an act, so that is still in the offing. But yes, the provisions are there. It will be the lead ministry will be the IT ministry and not the health ministry, but the Ministry of Health has a lot to do with the data privacy, and the NDHB has the National Digital Health Blueprint has given adequate attention and care to this aspect of data privacy and security. Then someone was talking about what actually, I think what he was talking about was basically addressing the wellness concept. So telehealth has a lot to offer as far as the wellness is concerned, because definitely it is the promotion of health which should be a precursor to actual clinical and then rehabilitative modalities of providing healthcare. If we can provide, and nowadays people are seeking more and more in the wellness arena, and that is where the digital healthcare industry has to focus on. And I think a lot of players are doing it, and I think it's a very lucrative. And what last I read about it, the CAGR in the digital health wellness industry is somewhere in the double figures. So it's really very heartening as far as that is concerned. Now, we have already addressed the issue of regulatory mechanisms. Regulatory mechanisms need to be made more robust. We have made the efforts last year. Till last year, it was all laissez-faire going on in India. Though there was nothing, there was no ban on telehealth industry, but there was a mistaken perception in the minds of people because of certain adverse judicial decisions against certain practitioners who actually it was nothing but medical negligence, but it was the technology that was held in the dock, which was, I think, miscarriage of justice. I don't know whether I may be pulled up for this statement, but yes, I think that is what I feel it was. Then, of course, what DH India is doing right now, as far as the registration of the vendors is concerned, of services and devices, this along with standardization of practices, protocols, and the infrastructure would go a long way towards promotion and progress of telehealth industry in India. So DH India and we at the Bureau of Indian Standards, I think we are working in a parallel processing mechanism, and both the things can go hand in hand.
Yeah.
Lastly, I would like to address the issue of training, which is very important. because there are a lot of misconceptions in the minds of the healthcare providers as well as healthcare seekers. So training in digital healthcare industry and provision of digital healthcare, the ways and means, the modalities, the technology involved, and the benefits of this thing, both the healthcare providers and healthcare seekers need to be made aware of it. And I think at TSI, we are doing a fairly good job of it. It is early days yet, but we intend making it more robust and more approachable to the masses in the near future. Thank you, Uma, for giving me the chance to.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Goel. So with this, we actually come to the end of our session. And I think it is very clear from all our deliberations that technology is not a replacement for care. Technology is something that helps us to augment the quality of care and increase the quality and safety of care in terms of, when it comes to patient. And it makes the life easier for a healthcare delivery system, provided the technology is used well, technology is robust, then standards and regulations and guidelines are followed properly. So with this, I want to thank each and every one of you, and special thanks to Dr. Goel for joining us with the last minute invitation. Thank you so much. And I want to thank the Crescendo Worldwide for allowing us to partner in this one of its kind exhibition and the symposium, as well as giving us a platform to roll out the telemedicine registry with Digital Health India. And I also want to invite anybody amongst the listeners they are all welcome to participate and work with us in DH India, because we are a non-profit organization that work for strengthening the digital health ecosystem, whichever way possible. And mostly it is a voluntary effort. It has so far been completely voluntary. And we will be really greatly helped by like-minded people joining us, working with us in whichever capacity that people want to work. And thank you so much for joining us. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.